And so I will start with none other than Mungal Patasar to my left. And so of course we asked everybody for a one-liner, right? So this was Mungal's one-liner to me. Trinidad is my rock, India my memory. My music is a divine gift that belongs to all. Right, so that's his one-liner, folks. I feel like anything that comes after that is just going to pale in comparison, right? So yeah, just forget it. So we have Anthony Pierre with us, and Anthony is a chartered accountant, and he leads the local firm of an international professional services network. And Akosua Ardene Edwards, who was not previously originally advertised to be here, but so willingly came out to be part of this conversation, one she's very well equipped to have with us. She is an author and so many other things. Her background is really, I would say, entrepreneurship. She's an accountant by training, by formal training, but she's really so much more than that. And you'll hear for yourselves as we talk a little more this afternoon. So the question we're addressing is, what answers have we found in life's questions, and specifically related to this period? A period of quiet, a period of less activity for sure, of stillness even if you haven't been still, certainly the environment has been. And so before we even get to asking, to answering the question, I think it's so important that we even define for ourselves what are life's questions. What do we consider to be these questions that matter the most, that are maybe the biggest questions we could ever consider in our lifetime? Mungal?
I would just simply open by saying the biggest question that I have come upon life is, who am I? And to elaborate on that, we'll go on as we go along. I'll give somebody else a chance to offer their question.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, to me, the big question has always been, what is it all about? What is life really all about? You know, we have all these different concepts and notions about what we should be and what we should be doing. But at the end of the day, why? Why do we do what we do? What is the end game? And to me, like, I'll allow our next guest to have her say, but we can discuss it as we go along. What is it all about?
I think for me, I have two big questions. And one of them is, who am I? And the second one is, what are the fears that I need to overcome to move forward? Those are my two questions, and it came in very handy in this time.
So I'm wondering whether you all had these questions in mind pre-COVID. I feel like I know the answer for you, Akosua, but and for Mungal as well. Yeah. But are these questions that, before March 2020 were already sort of centrally occupying your attention, regardless of what you were doing in your separate spheres of activity and work, etc.?
Well, in my case, my entire life has been based around that question. And the last discussion you and I had on media was that we tried very hard to answer the question, who am I? And we went into detail I don't know if you want me to go into detail now, but it's a very long discussion, an unending discussion.
Absolutely.
But the point is that, if you look at the scriptures, I will start with the Holy Bible, where Jesus Christ said, what? Seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. That's the who am I we are talking about. The Hindus say, search for your inner self. Search for God within you, not outside of yourself. The Muslims say the same thing. So every known old religion always says that who you are is part of the divinity. And that is where you are supposed to go. And man always sees himself as a finite being. But we are not a finite being. We are infinite being, trapped in a finite body. But the mind has the ability to row us across that river of materialism into the being who we are, the true being of who we are. Yes. And like last night, I was talking with my son, and casually he said, Dad, I'm talking about a 42-year-old man. Life itself has no meaning. It is what we are getting an opportunity to put meaning into life. And I thought that was a very profound statement, And I thought, I even wrote it down so I won't forget it. Because it was exactly on how my thinking is. All my thinking is around, who am I? Am I Mungal Patasar? Am I the artist known everywhere? No, that's not me. Then who is asking the question? Who is answering the question? That's where it is. Now, as the conversation proceeds, I'll go further into it.
And Tony, you asked why. There was a why somewhere in your determining what life's questions are. And as you listen to Mungal, I'm wondering if you hear the why in that.
Yes, I'm definitely hearing the why in that. And when you ask the question, was it a question that I've had even before COVID?
Yes.
And the answer is definitely yes. Because when you look around you on a daily basis, you see people going about their daily lives. You see this rat race taking place around us. On mornings I'm driving and I'm paying attention to young mothers with a baby in the arm and a young one holding onto her dress skirt, and you see guys, making a hustle to get to a taxi to get to where they're going to. And very often I pause and said, why are we doing all this? Why are we putting ourselves through this? For what? And then sometimes I reflect, you have a family unit and the family is supposed to be the nucleus of society and everything else, and they spend so little time together because it's like they're up 5 in the morning, mommy preparing breakfast, daddy maybe helping out with the kids, getting them ready to go to school, if there's a daddy in the house in the first place, and then we all rushed out and the kids are dropped off to school and we go to work and we work a long day and then we get back home at 6, 7 in the evening and it's just dinner time. And so in all of that, where's the value? Where's the value add? Where, we're working hard to maintain our families, to support our families, but we don't have time for family. So we're just working to pay bills basically. We're just going through all of this to pay bills. And at some point in time, I think we needed to stop. I think and COVID provided us that opportunity and ask the question, why am I doing all of this?
And was it clearer for you? Did the opportunity to be at home provide more clarity, to be quieter, calmer?
Yes, it did. But I must confess, having my own business and everything else, I've learned the art a while ago to take time off. So I routinely will not engage in any work activity at least 1-2 days a week. And I made that a habit over the last maybe 5, 6, 7 years. Because again, why? All right. So midweek I may pick up myself and say to my wife, let's go Maracas and have a good bacon shack and a good walk on the beach. All right. And so I thank God I have the ability to do that, because not everybody has the ability to do that. People have jobs that they have to go to and stuff like that. I'm fortunate in that I have my own business, so I can do that. But not everybody can do it. So yes, we really need to stop, and I think COVID gave us a perfect opportunity to stop and ask ourselves why. And coming out of it, I'll be surprised if we went back to where we were before. Although what I'm seeing on the roads these days makes me wonder whether we have learned the lessons.
No, I'd just like to, if you will allow me, one point upon what he's saying. I want to quote, there's 2 things I have written on this paper I brought to you, 2 important things. And one of them is my grandson, who is now 7 years old. When asked by his mommy, what do you think about this COVID? He said, well, I no longer see my grandparents, but I have got back my mommy. His mommy was busy trying to work and make ends meet, and she was working like from home to office and working at home when she come back in the evening, online and that way. And now this little boy is so happy. Well, the 3 of them, he's gotten back his mommy. So, I mean, just to emphasize what you were saying.
Yes.
Sorry.
For me, before COVID, I was kind of forced into asking, who am I? It wasn't a question I even contemplated before. And at that point, when the question came up, I started rattling off, where I work and the qualifications that I have and where I came from, and that wasn't accepted. That wasn't accepted as the answer to who you are. And I had to now sit down and decide who I was without all of those things. And that really woke me up to ask myself, if all of these things go away, then what's left?
What's left?
Am I still Akosua?
Yeah.
And that kind of guides my life now. So I had that question before, but since COVID, the question about the fears that I need to face came up because it threw me into an uncertain period. And most of the things that I realized, it was really fear. It wasn't anything real. And from that, I also looked at and asked myself, what are some of the beliefs, the outdated beliefs, the beliefs that people put on me that I've been carrying around, which has me in fear. And that has been the questions since COVID came out.
Well, tell us a little bit about some of those beliefs.
So one of the first ones is that there's this formula for success,
yes,
which involves going to school, and a particular school or schools,
yes,
and then going to university and working in a particular job, etc., etc. So that was the first one, that when I didn't want to do that, it was a belief that I had to go and talk to my parents about, well.
yes,
And it's even more now. The second belief is that you need to have this specific job or this specific lifestyle to be considered a success. That you can't define success for yourself. And I guess the last one is spirituality and religion clashes. Like you have to choose. And those, I mean, it came into play for COVID because I had to dig deep into my spirituality to get over some of those fears that came up.
And so is it that you found that there was conflict when you started doing that work?
Yeah, because I was taught that, from a young age. So now to kind of rewire my brain to see this is a new way forward, of course some doubt came in, and doubt about support of my family and my friends, because when you do something people consider crazy, they think something is wrong with you, like, why are you doing that? Why are you leaving your good job?
What is a good
Why
job?
stop going to that church?
You are throwing me back 54 years ago when I was foundering I was always had a spiritual approach in my life ever since I was a child, 10 years old. From 15 years old, I left no big house, mother's upstairs. I went and started living in a rice box downstairs, just devoting myself, feeling there was a call for me to meditate and that kind of thing. And then I went to St. Benedict's College and I met Basil Matthew. And I was so impressed with him that I wanted to become a Catholic priest. I started to
This is you as a Hindu Mungal?
Yes. No, the point is that for me, since then, religion was not a barrier. It was the spirituality in the religion is what I was pursuing.
Yeah.
And if I started to talk about Basil, you will be amazed at the genius of that man. That impressed me even at that young age. So I started to go to Sunday Mass and church, and I'm making an own visit to his office and that kind of thing, and talking to him and like that. And I told him I wanted to become an acolyte in church. So meanwhile, my elder brother heard my ranting about wanting to become a Catholic, and he gave me one book. He said, I want you to read this book, and if after you read this book, you still want to become a Catholic, feel free and go ahead. In those days, elder brothers are like fathers. The father was working outside, elder brother was more educated or that. So the book he gave me was Autobiography of a Yogi. When I read that book, I said, I have everything that I need. Religion cannot give me what I need. Because, my belief is non-religious. My belief is my way of life.
Yes.
And yet you're still able to draw on religious teachings
Yes,
and
of
principles,
course.
of
All
course.
the time.
Yeah.
Because what happened, every one of the great ones that passed through the earth, the sages, they all were first of all a spiritual being who some of the students or some of their followers take their teaching and wanted to give it a stamp, and the whole stamp of ego. They wanted to create something that everybody must follow. That's religion, you know. But the spirituality is lost from that religion. And that's where it goes. If you really study the founders of religions of the earth, you will realize that each one of them, Constantine killed off over 10 villages and then he went to write over the Bible.
Tony, do you consider yourself a religious person?
No, I'm not religious at all. I'm spiritual.
All right.
Because, you know, religion is about dogmas and, you know, and following patterns of behavior that has been handed down by man, more or less. Whereas spirituality is really getting in touch with you know, that deeper part of who you are. You know, and it's interesting hearing your experience, Mungal, because and you know that's one of the benefits of belonging to a multicultural, multiracial society that very often we overlook. Because here it is, this Hindu boy going to a Catholic college and being influenced by a Catholic priest to actually want to, you know, find out more. And he discovered himself in that process. So, you know, I think sometimes we box ourselves in. You know, and going back to what Akosua was saying earlier about the fears and that pattern to be given for life. You know, you have to do this and then you have to do that, and then you forgot what part, you have to get married.
Yeah.
No, that's the main one. You think about you must get married or you're not accepted in society.
Oh, well, I have to say I'm really happy I never felt that pressure in my life.
Well, no,
even if there were pressure, I never noticed it.
I relieve my kids of that pressure. Clean. I relieve them of it. So what the point that I was making, and I don't want to dominate the conversation, after this I'll stop, that it gave me a feeling that when I see you, I don't see the finite body, I see a spiritual being. When I say namaste, it means I bow to the divine within you. And when I see you, I see the same thing. And that's why, that's the beginning of my band. My friend here will tell you. That's where my band started. And that's how my music became well recognized in Europe in particular. And the quote that I gave, the one-line quote, I was sitting on stage and the MC in Montreux Jazz Festival in Switzerland came to ask me, give me a few lines for clean. So to think, so first time in Europe and thing, you know, I said, okay. Trinidad is the rock on which I stand. India is my memory. Europe is my doorway to the world. My first foreign trip, so it's my doorway to the world. My music is definitely a divine gift, and this belongs to all. And that became a quotation that was used by all the magazine, Vogue magazine, everybody. And that's why I gave you that quotation. You understand? So what I'm saying is that since I was a young man, these are the things that I am totally enveloped in. This kind of thinking, which has no barriers where people are concerned and ethnicity and every time I see things like turning into that, it turns me in a different, in a different way. I become very sorrowful, very sad.
So, there was the pandemic, or there is the pandemic, right? And then now there's the other layer on top of that, which is the Black Lives Matter movement and the response to institutionalized racism in the US, etc. And a dreadful killing that we all got to witness, right? So how does that factor into this period for you? On top of whatever work you were perhaps already doing internally, when everything is now thrown into a tailspin by, the response, which it should be, obviously, what resonated for you in terms of where you are in your journey, in your lives? I mean, granted, we're here in Trinidad and Tobago, we don't have the experience of the US. We have other experiences, but that's not ours. How did you make sense of that? Using the spiritual tools.
I will go ahead after.
I would say the first thing I thought about is, who am I?
Back to you,
Who am I now? Who am I in this process? Because I already overcame the hurdle of me being things, me being attached to things.
Right.
So when it hit, I initially had some fears, but when I remembered who I was, I said, okay, I am not all of the things that are gone, but I am service and I am love. So how can I use this definition of who I am in this time? And that kept me going. But drilling down from that was still asking myself, what are the fears I need to overcome to really reflect and demonstrate who I am in this time? And those fears came up, and I was able to address it because I remembered who I was. The other thing that really kind of helped me get over some of the anger and the hurt and the rage from the George Floyd matter and everything that happened around it is really asking myself, what is the truth that I am avoiding? What is the truth that I am denying now, so that I can show up in my own space and be a better person? Because I can't control anything around me.
Nice.
I must now make some decisions, and I must now look at the truth that I have been either denying, avoiding, or making excuses for in how I spend my money, how I show up in a group, what are my friends saying around me, or family that I know have some racism in it. So that's what came out from this whole situation, and those questions kept me sane, more or less, because it was very easy for me to retreat into a shell and kind of cut out everybody, because that's how I would usually go into to my...
As far as I'm concerned, that's the correct way to go.
Thank you.
No.
Now I have an excuse.
The way I see it is that when you go into yourself, you go into where the pure being is. And that's where the answer is to the question that you are asking.
Yeah.
Because the answer is when you get in touch with that inside being within you, then you get to view this thing as like you're looking at a movie.
Yes.
And for us, it is like, this is for me like the beginning of the end, according to the prophecies that I've read great men tell us. This is really the beginning of the end. And what you're seeing, the certain group being targeted and certain advances taking place, and those are the beginning of the turmoil. So this is what it is. So we now have to, it forces us, and this is what COVID has done. What I'm thinking should be doing, forces us to seek ye first the kingdom of heaven within you.
Yes.
Anthony?
For me, going back to the situation in the United States, I think at first I was angry and I felt enraged when I saw that video. I was really enraged by it because I have tried to live in North America, who don't look much different from George Floyd, right? And my son, for example, one of the things he does every day is he runs 5 kilometers every day, and who's to say that he cannot become one of those statistics? Yes. So I was enraged and stuff like that. But as time went by and I started reflecting on it, I started seeing the reaction of the people. You're forced to ask yourself, there are so many social injustices around us. And the question I had to deal with in trying to come to terms with it is, how am I contributing by my inaction. You know, because we see the protesters and, you know, and we say, yeah, but how many of us are willing to do what some of those protesters are doing? And not in terms of the illegal activities, of course, but in terms of the genuine protest. And how many of us are prepared to step out of our, you know, our space of comfort to try and impact? You know, we tend to be convenient in terms of what causes we support and what things we support. So to me, the inactivity that is so prevalent among so many of us is what came home to me at first. And now I'm still processing. So, so what am I going to do differently come next week, next year, right? I have employees. How am I going to make sure that they are treated justly? Not just in terms of racism, but in terms, there are so many other imbalances in society, all right? There are so many different areas of social justice that need to be addressed. And what are we prepared to do as individuals to make a difference? So it comes back to the question, it comes back to the answer, I guess, and Mungal has been talking of all evening, you know, who am I? And how do I use to go out there and impact and make that difference in lives? Because, you know, this country has a lot of people who are socially, you know, displaced, and there's no other way to put it, right? There are so many mothers out there struggling to make ends meet. There are so many young guys out there who can't find their way, all right? And it's so easy for us to sit back in our little comfort zones and criticize and say this and that and call them all kind of names and stuff like that. But what are we doing to impact that situation? What are we doing to bring about change in that situation? And to me, that's the big question.
One of the things I was struck by when the pandemic, the lockdown came about, was the response to people when they realized how many people were lining up for food.
Yes.
How many people needed assistance, the numbers. It was incredible to many people. And to the point where, you know, Trinis, we could be so cynical. You know, there's no way all those people could be hungry after 2 weeks of not working, you know. And for me, I mean, I was alarmed as well at the numbers, but then it just showed me how out of touch I must be to the reality of so many people living here. You know, in a place where we generally think, you know, judging from GDP and, you know, the cars on the road and, you know, you have a sense that people are doing well. But, I mean, we all know that there are many people who aren't, but we find ways of looking past it, just ignoring it altogether. I mean, and we had the distractions pre-COVID, but now we have none.
None, exactly.
And as you said, you know, you see the people on the road and you ask yourself questions, but now it's all laid bare. And for me, that's what this time has really done, and that causes me discomfort.
I live in a residential area, no posh land for Tribuna, and there, every single day, 1 or 2 people at least come passing. People who were service people who were servants to people who work in the foreign factory, and they just got fired from the job, and they passed. So what my wife and I decided to do, every week, make 10 hampers. As they come, give them a hamper, because one of them might be a drug user and he wants money to buy drugs. But we are giving them hampers with food. And because most of them are people with children, family, and that's how we decided to do it, whatever we can afford, until we could afford it.
Yes.
So if everybody make a small contribution like that, a lot of problems could be solved.
Exactly, yes. But back to the point you're making about, you know, when you look around us, you know, we have so many facades that we around us, you know, the nice cars and the good GDP and the good economics. But the reality is, a lot of people in this country live paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people in this country, if they are weekly paid by Wednesday, they don't have any money. And if they're monthly paid by the 15th of the month, they have no money. They just have enough money to travel to work for the rest of the month, and they're counting down the days literally to the next paycheck. And you know, to me, that is the social injustice embedded in that system is so tremendous. And, you know, sometimes you know, as an individual, you wonder, well, you know, how could we ever address it? How can we really ever address it? And
do you all think that is one of the questions, though, when we talk about life questions? So there's a feeling that we are doing the best that we can as individuals to help others, but other people don't care. So for instance, you know, in talking with various people about this time and the opportunity it presents, you get comments like, so do you really think people are going to change?
Could be what?
Do you really think people are going to change after COVID? Do you think we'll be any better? And I'm saying, well, it's not really about other people, is it? It's about you. And so if everybody understood that it's really about me, then we don't have to worry about anybody else, right?
Exactly. Going back to going within.
This whole discussion has me feeling very, very comfortable inside. That yes, if according to Ardene, if everybody pull the weight, we won't have a problem in it.
Yeah.
Because I've seen my daughter's salary drop from $15,000 a month to $10,000 a month to $5,000, and this month she received $2,000.
Well, I hope she doesn't mind you sharing that with the world.
You have some trouble you get to.
You know, I forgot that I edit that out. Yeah. Of course, we all rally to the sides of the family and whatnot.
Yeah.
Everybody comes to the aid, and that's how we live. And I think most Trinis live like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's always room for more. And what I realize is the disconnection that we just living in our own bubble, trying to fulfill that formula of success.
Yes.
That we lose sight of what's going on around us. And because of that, we sometimes get fearful and we judge others. So that doesn't help us in sharing the wealth or coming up with ways to assist. So if everybody do their part, then I think we'll be much better off.
Much better.
Yeah.
Well, that's the better way to put it. Much better off. It wouldn't solve the problem, but we'll be much better off.
Yeah.
So we have to wrap up, and I'm just wondering, well, so what happens to these answers that we have found in this period, right? These answers. So we're trying, it seems, to return to a sense of normalcy, again, whatever that means. But it's really not going to be normal for a long time. How do we sort of retain what we found, or how do we stay in that place? How do we get more comfortable going within and not forget? You know, I mean, I suspect that it's a practice, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think once you're touched within, you can't come back out. Not necessarily. You won't want to. Because the peace that I see in you, particularly, is something that she was touched from within. And that's what we're talking about. Once you get inside of yourself, it's difficult to come out, really. Because when you enjoy something nice, you want to go back there. And these are the one that pass it all understanding.
Anthony?
For me, I think it's as Mungal is saying, I think it's us coming to that place of realization that if it is to happen, it depends on me, kind of thing, and that I can make a difference. And sometimes we tend to discount the fact that we could make a difference. Well, I can only do so much. Well, okay, fine, you do so much. But if everybody does so much, then we have much. So, I think it's really a question of us getting in touch with ourselves, remaining in touch with ourselves, addressing some of the fears and concerns that we talked about earlier on, understanding that, we are the institutions that are around us. Here a lot of people criticizing the church not doing enough and the government not doing enough and this one not doing enough. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Are we doing enough? I think, and it's for us to do enough as individuals.
Yeah.
Akosua?
I would say that it starts with a firm decision that I am going to go back out into this new paradigm with all of the knowledge and the tools that I learned while I was in the period, and I would always go back to that and practice it every day, because it takes commitment to change and it takes time, and sometimes you may fall back, but if you're committed to it and if you have firmly decided, that this is my new paradigm moving forward, then the decisions that you make would change, because you've rewired your mind, and you've gotten in touch with your heart to say, I am now Akosua who is showing up in service and in love, and whatever is around me, I could still remain as Akosua.
Yeah.
And then that decision that would come from that would be different.
Yes.
So basically, make the decision and commit to it and practice it.
Give thanks to all of you. Thank you all so much. I think this is a perfect way to end a day of a lot of enlightening and riveting conversation where people have been sharing, and clearly you all showed up and did just that, and I really have to honor that. So thank you all, and thank you all to our viewers and listeners wherever you are.